And if that does not get you excited for college basketball, then this podcast is not for you. We're going to be giving you a full conference tournament preview today. We're breaking down all the big conferences, Big 12, SEC, Big 10, and then also give you some mid and low mid major tournaments as well. But first, let's start out with a quick recap of how March has gone so far. Topo, it has been a hot start from what has been a good, 10 straight days of locks for you? 12
I mean, we're firing. We're in March 12th. We're 10-3. We've been sticking one play per day, but a couple Saturdays ago, I just saw a slate that I loved. I had to give 3 plays. Obviously, all 3 hit. We're at 10-3. We started 8-0. You and I are cooking. This is our month.
This has been our month. 8-0 start, like you said. We got robbed last night by Northern Kentucky, blowing a 15-point lead. That's okay. We're still making money, 10-3, and we're going to keep it going, giving you locks every single day up until Selection Sunday. First, I want to give some love to these low and mid-major conference tournaments. There are already plenty of teams that have secured a spot in the tournament. Tickets have been punched. Who are your favorite teams that have punched a ticket that you're going to be keeping an eye on to maybe make a run in the tournament?
I'd love to talk about Drake first. Drake is a team that has really, really been on my radar this year. Love the Missouri Valley Conference. To be honest, I know this isn't really what we're talking about, but I think they deserve 2 bids. I think Indiana State should get the nod as an at-large.
Okay. Yeah.
Drake is the conference champion and a team I love. I think they'll probably be slotted in 12, 13. They're going to give somebody fits, and they're a team that does not look like your typical mid-major sleeper. And what I mean by that is they're gonna show up at a game no matter who they're matched up against, and they're gonna look pretty similar in athleticism and size to the Power 5 team they're playing. They've got fast guards, they've got length, they've got size. And what people are often afraid of with mid-majors is that they're gonna get out-rebounded, out-physicaled. This is the most efficient defensive rebounding team in the entire country, number one.
Yeah.
Number one. So this is they're checking boxes for me, and I've really got Drake on my radar. And not to mention, I think they're gonna have the best player on the court in most games they play. Tucker DeVries gets 21 points a game.
And my favorite part about Tucker DeVries and this Drake team is that they have the father-son duo that we saw back in the day with Georgia State, RJ and Ron Hunter. Ron Hunter fell out of the chair.
Yep.
Iconic March moment.
It's screaming March. This Drake team is screaming March.
Yep. If you don't already know, Tucker DeVries, who Topo was just talking about, his dad is the coach, his dad Darian DeVries, and I mean a father-son duo where the son is the best player on the court. He could have gotten drafted last year probably.
Yep.
He came back, dropped 27 in the conference championship game to knock off Indiana State, who most teams were saying would be the Cinderella team before they'd even won their conference tournament. I mean, Drake is a team to keep your eye on for sure. What do you think, like a 13 seed?
Yeah,
13-4
I think they'll probably get 13, which is disrespectful. Whoever was going to win that Drake-Indiana State game, I think deserved an 11. The conference is absolutely good enough. But I think, hopefully they'll get that respect, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, well, Missouri Valley Conference champions, keep your eye on Drake. My favorite team that just punched their ticket yesterday, we're recording this podcast on Tuesday, JMU from the Sun Belt.
The Dukes.
31 wins. They beat Michigan State and East Lansing, as well as a couple other good non-con wins. And they just absolutely ripped through their conference tournament. John Rothstein, who I know we're big fans of, he said it was like chainsaw through butter. JMU is legit. I mean, if you're a 20-14, 21 team that was maybe the 4 seed in your conference tournament, and you have to go up against a team like JMU, who's as hot as anybody, watch out for them. I could see them making a run.
Dream matchup. Anyone listening, I want James Madison to get matched up with the Alabama Crimson Tide in March because James Madison has a very specific formula for how they like to beat you. They are the best team in the entire country at running you off a three-point line. They are not going to let you get a 3 without somebody's hand or entire body in your face. If Alabama runs into this team or a similar style team like Alabama, JMU's got a chance to go really deep because they have a unique philosophy about them, but as you said, they can beat a lot of different teams in a lot of different ways. So they're versatile and they're gonna pose fits for a lot of Power 5 teams.
Yeah, watch out for the Dukes, watch out for Drake. How about some teams that are still playing in their conference tournament? We're talking low, mid-major teams that you think will not only win their conference tournament in the next coming days, but then make a run in March?
I'm going to the Big West. I'm looking at UC Irvine, the Anteaters. Think they're going to be roughly 13 seed, probably 2. They do so many things well, and this is a conference that we've seen get some wins in March before. Irvine themselves as a school, I believe, has kind of been in and out of the tournament. But this, similarly to some other teams that I've talked about, this is an incredible, well-rounded team, incredibly defensively. They force teams to shoot three-pointers, allow a really, really low field goal percentage inside the arc, and they've got great size. I think they're gonna similarly to JMU. I want a specific matchup with this team. I want a team who isn't a great three-point shooting team. But if I get the right matchup, again, the Anteaters, another mid-major that can get to the second week.
All right, watch out for the Anteaters. I know you've been giving me some Anteater locks throughout the regular season, and they've been hitting.
Yeah.
McNeese State, they're in the semifinal today. If they can make a run, I think that they could get as hot as anyone else in the NCAA just based on how they shoot the three. So watch out for them if they can.
They're coached by Will Wade.
Yeah, old LSU coach.
Old LSU coach. Dealt with a lot. He was not allowed to coach, I believe, suspended, whatever they called that whole situation. He takes the job with McNeese, gets them to 28 wins, and here they are. They'll probably be a 14. They're terrible conference, but they kill everybody. Yeah. So you got to be worried. Yeah, McNeese.
Okay.
You got to be worried about him.
Not McNeese. We need to know this.
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure.
We need to figure that out before we pick them to go to like the Sweet 16 Elite 8 as a 14 seed.
Yeah.
We'll go with McNeese State.
Okay.
Keep an eye on them. If they do win their conference tournament, we'll be talking about them next week in our podcast. We're going to be giving you college basketball pod every single week up until the Final Four, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get into it, Topo. Let's talk about the best conference in college basketball. We're going in order Power 5, but in basketball, I like to call it Power 6.
Yes.
Including the Big East.
Absolutely.
And let's go in order of best to worst. Agree with me if you want, but we're starting with the Big 12.
This is the best conference in college basketball. All but one, I believe, top 40 net ratings, with the exception of West Virginia. Maybe like top 45 or whatever. Something stupid. Deep. This is an incredible conference, extremely deep and really top-heavy. Houston is as firm as a 1 seed as we can see across any conference in America. But there are a lot of scary teams here.
Yeah.
A lot. Who are you looking at?
Man, I am in love with this conference since pretty much day one. They're, like you said, they have the most depth. They're going to have the most teams in the tournament regardless. Usually it's like it depends on how the conference tournaments shape out, SEC, ACC, Big 12, to see who's going to have the most teams. This year it's going to be the Big 12. It's already decided. And I'm in awe by the big three in this conference: Baylor, Houston, and Iowa State. I think all three teams have Final Four potential, and I might pick all three of these teams to go to the Final Four, which makes this conference tournament very tough. Houston, obviously, the number 1 seed. I'm not going to pick against them. I picked against them. They played Baylor like 2 Saturdays ago, and they won in overtime. And I was like, man, I'm never going to pick against Jamal Shed and all the dudes that they have over there. So Houston is my team to not only win this conference tournament, but I don't know. I'm not going to pick them to lose a game for the rest of the year, and that includes the NCAA tournament. That's my hot take. Might as well go ahead and get it out there.
Yeah. So while we're talking about the Big 12, we got to touch on Kansas just for a little bit. So they're going to be without Hunter Dickinson this tournament. Obviously going to have low expectations for this week.
Yeah. But
keeping him and McCullough out this week raises the fan base's expectations for next week. If you're gonna sit them out this week and you're gonna kind of concede the conference tournament, those two better be healthy and ready, and this team better be healthy and ready next week. And I don't think that they can be, because Bill Sells' lack of depth. One guy gets in foul trouble and this team is in deep shit, like immediately. This is the worst depth Self has ever dealt with, and it's been an issue for him a few other years too. It's really, really caught up to them, and they thought they could stay healthy the whole year, and they didn't. And as injuries mount, this team goes further and further down rankings.
Kevin McCullough also out with an injury, so
exactly.
That's 2 All-Americans that you won't see in the Big 12, and they're already not going to be a top 5 seed in the tournament like
exactly.
They used to.
And 3 weeks ago, on the Instagram, I had a little BYU +8 when they went into
Yeah.
Lawrence. I'd love to talk about BYU for just a quick second. I've been using the best, the worst. I'm using a lot of extremes. I'm a very analytical guy. This, I think, is the best passing team in the entire country, BYU.
Okay.
3rd in assists per game, 11th in overall offensive efficiency. They swing the ball until they get a great look. Not a good look. They get a great look. It's a formula that works when you're away from home. They don't need to be playing in front of their home crowd to feel confident in their abilities. They're not the biggest, but what they lack in size, they make up for in toughness. And I think they're a really, really tough out. If they make free throws down the stretch like they did against Kansas, they could be right with that next tier of Final Four aspirations.
Yeah, good passing. Good passing leads to good shooting, and that's why they do a whole lot of that. A lot of good three-point shooting on that team, and they're going to be playing UCF in the second round. Big 12 tournament started today on Tuesday. UCF just beat Oklahoma State 77-62, so if BYU can get past UCF, because that's another hot team that I know that you like to bet on.
Oh, yeah.
I think that they're going to give Texas Tech some fits, and then that they can make a run down to the semis and have a meet up with Houston in the semis. BYU, not a team that you want to play in March.
And we've talked about it a lot, too. Not going to get super deep into it, but know the name Tamin Lipsey, Iowa State's point guard. He gets over 3 steals per game, the most grueling on-ball defender in America. Iowa State also, just like all these teams in the Big 12, Final Four aspirations.
Topo, you were on the Cyclones before anyone else was.
I was really early.
Let's go now to the SEC, who, as you know, we're here in Athens, Georgia, recording this podcast. Big fans of this conference, and a lot of teams that can make some noise, especially this time of year. We have Tennessee as the favorite at +160. Auburn, Kentucky, Bama are following. But the one thing about this conference that I like to notice when I look at it, pretty much every conference that we're going to go through today has like 3 teams that have odds +500 or lower. The SEC has like 5 teams all with +1,000 odds or better. That means that pretty much anyone could win this tournament, which is a very, very exciting thing to keep in mind. Obviously, Tennessee is the number 1 seed and the favorite, but after that, I mean, you have so much depth. Going all the way to the number 6 seed with Florida, I think that this tournament is as wide open as any in college basketball.
Couldn't agree more. I can see Carolina winning it. I can see Florida winning it. Neither would surprise me, and obviously any of the top 4. I mean, this conference is deep and good. So many good games coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I have Florida making a Cinderella run to the championship. They're on the bubble.
Did we just get a quick lock little conference tourney squad ride?
You have that too?
The Gators are going to beat Alabama in round 2.
I agree.
I
agree.
Because Alabama's too inconsistent, and Florida's not.
Yeah, Florida's and Florida,
Keep going. Come on.
All right,
let's talk about the Gators.
Florida. Well, so here's what's gonna happen. Georgia's gonna beat Missouri.
Yep.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
And then they're gonna get probably beat by 20 points against Florida. Florida's gonna keep that momentum going into Bama, and then they will play Kentucky most likely in that semifinal game. They've already beat Kentucky this year, and it was when Kentucky was as hot as they ever were. I think Florida will continue to make a run. They're kind of on the bubble, which gives them even more motivation to play, whereas Kentucky, John Calipari, they might not be as excited as for the SEC tournament as they might be for, say, next week. So, yeah, I like Florida a lot.
I like Florida a lot. I love South Carolina. I love the 2 head coaches for those 2 teams, Lamont Paris and Mr. Golden. Really, really great hires for those 2 schools and programs. These are the 2 teams, Carolina and Florida. If I'm a 3 or 4 seed and you get matched up with them in the second round, they're going to knock you out because they have the right they've got the right methods, and they have so many different ways to beat you. Let's talk about Florida for a second too. Walton Clayton Jr., the most underrated player in the country, period. Most underrated, not just guard, anyone. I cannot believe he was left off the SEC first team yesterday. I'm a big Zakai Ziegler fan. I understand the impact he's had for that program, but you cannot leave Walter Clayton Jr. off the first team after what he did this year. He's Florida's best player, and he's a professional basketball player. Just watch. He is the eye test. He passes from all 3 levels in the paint, mid-range 3. He is incredible and can really carry this team deep.
Extra motivation, certainly, for Florida.
Taft and I, everybody tuning in, let me just, quick announcement. We think the value, Florida 18-1. 18-1 to win the SEC, money line against Bama, and then money line against Kentucky. Keep an eye on these Gators.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on them.
And if you are just now gearing up for college basketball, do not let Florida or South Carolina go unnoticed when you're filling out your bracket next week.
They travel. Both teams travel, too. Doesn't matter where they play.
And they're legit, too. Let's go now to the Big Ten. I know that you see a lot of
I've got some strong opinions about this conference.
Let's hear them.
A lot of individual players I would like to speak very highly about in this conference. Boo Buie, Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard, Zach Edey, Braden Smith, Coleman Hawkins, Terrence Shannon. Names go on and on. But as far as teams go, I don't know how many I can name, man. I kind of like one, and that's that's kind of it. I love Illinois. They can make a run in the long term, and they can make a run in the short term. They can string 5 or 6 games together, and if they're down by 10, they can tie the game like that in the Big Ten tournament. I think that I trust their guards more than Purdue's, simply because Purdue got both of theirs out of the portal and Illinois didn't. But I think both teams are too lazy defensively, to be honest, in the grand scheme of stepping outside of this conference. But I'll take Illinois to win the Big Ten. I'll take Michigan State as a Cinderella. And I will hope that Purdue proves me wrong by winning and then losing once March starts.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to bet against Tom Izzo in March.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Michigan State. One thing to keep in mind: they have a first-round matchup on Thursday against Minnesota. The tournament this year is in Minneapolis, so that might be a tough game for Tom Izzo's squad to come into. This is definitely not his best squad in recent years. But yeah, Michigan State. They're the fourth most bet team to win the Big Ten because people just love Tom Izzo so much this time of year. Purdue's the favorite. You can get him at even to win the whole thing. That's my pick.
Can we talk about the Big East for a second? And can I bring up where that tournament is being played?
Oh, man.
I
know where this is going.
We know where this is going, right? The Red Storm. This is going all straight in to the Red Storm. I'm trying to find flaws with this team, and I don't know, man. I can't really find them. Free throw shooting is the one, and I don't really know about others. This team does every little thing well. They're so hard to beat, and they're coached by Rick Pitino. Yeah. It's March, baby. This team is scary. They play Seton Hall in a 4-5 game. Is it tomorrow or is it Thursday?
That's Thursday. That's the game I have circled.
That is
2 teams on the bubble.
Get the quick lock out there. Lock it in as soon as you can. St. John's money line.
Really?
I know I had Seton Hall a week ago on our run, but that was a lot. Actually, I did want to touch on this. Betting last week is so much different than betting this week. Neutral site versus home is way different in college, more than any other sport. College basketball, home court means the most. That's what, a lot of times why I was betting a lot of home teams recently. But now we go to neutral site, and St. John's playing kind of a home game, kind of. And they are better than Seton Hall in genuinely everything I'm going to look at.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm loving them.
I disagree. I have Seton Hall in an upset at MSG. They're the 4 seed. St. John's the 5 seed, but everyone is picking St. John's. People are even picking them to win the Big East tournament. They're plus 1,300. They have the home crowd. The Johnnies have Rick Pitino fighting for the NCAA tournament.
The Johnnies.
I think a lot of people want to see them playing in the NCAA tournament because of Rick Pitino. But, I think
loser of that game could be out, man. Loser of that game on Thursday could really be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a win and you're in, but if you lose, you're out.
Oof. And I'll tell you what, even if it's St. John's, the loser of that game might not get in over Indiana State. Could be the one that, because after Drake got that bid.
We might have to have a whole separate podcast on the bubble.
Who do you think's going to win it? Who you got? Creighton?
Creighton,
okay.
Yeah. Creighton. Yeah. Creighton beating Marquette in the semifinal and then Seton Hall in the championship.
Nice.
Because I was Seton Hall beating St. John's.
Come on. Yeah, there's going to be some sleepers somewhere. Yeah. Marquette is such an interesting one. They've been dealing with so many injuries the past 4 weeks. It's really, really annoying for someone like me who was literally getting ready to bet their national championship odds, and then they go down with some injuries. Yeah. It's been interesting to see how they have dealt with them. They've had some games where they look way better, some way worse. They're not going to go deep without Tyler Kolek. That's not a secret. But let's see how they can play this week without him. Mm-hmm. and then they get him back. And hopefully meshing him back into the team as he's been there for 3 or 4 years won't be an issue. But yeah, and God, dude, I'm going to go with it. Creighton's going to win this tournament. They did something offensively that nobody has done. And so they had 3 players average at least 17 points. All 3 of those, dude, they're all so good. Kalkbrenner, Alexander, Shireman. And they're all in 3 different ways where they want to beat you. Kalkbrenner in the paint, Shireman on the three-point line, Alexander in the mid-range. They've got somebody for everywhere, literally. I think Creighton gets the best of UConn. They're really hard to prepare for. Couldn't agree more.
Creighton, they beat UConn 3 weeks ago. They beat Marquette last week. So they can take down the top teams in the Big East, which is what they're going to have to do if they want to win in MSG and get the title for Doug McDermott. Let's move over now to the ACC. We have 2 conferences left. We're going in order of the best to worst, so that's why
the last and the least.
So the last and the least. And I grew up in North Carolina, so I'm ACC through and through. And growing up, would argue ACC was the best basketball conference, and they were many years. This year, they are not even close. They maybe have 3 teams that could win a game in the NCAA tournament. Not their best year. Duke and UNC are the 2 favorites. You can get them around plus 200. UNC is the most bet team to win any conference tournament. They have 54% of the tickets to win the ACC.
Wow.
57% of the money is on the Tar Heels to win what would be their first ACC tournament since 2016. Hubert Davis, and then go back to Roy Williams. They can win the ACC regular season titles, but they don't win in the last couple of decades. They haven't won too many ACC tournaments. And it's almost been a full decade since they've won their last one.
And it's kind of been helping their March success.
Yeah.
So maybe
very fair.
I mean, not to say that them winning the title would be a bad thing, but I mean, shit, they haven't won one in 8 years, and we've seen them get to 2 Final Fours.
And the winner of the ACC last year, Duke, didn't even make it out of the first weekend. They lost to Tennessee. But we'll go over the ACC pretty quickly. There's some teams that are going to be playing on the bubble that need some wins to maybe get into the tournament. We're looking at Wake Forest, looking at Clemson. Looks like Pitt is pretty secure now as a 4 seed. What do you think of this conference?
This Clemson team is the one that's screaming Cinderella to me. Yeah. Based on what I'm looking at with their roster and statistically, I think senior guards and having the best player on the court, those 2 things never hurt in March. PJ Hall is the best big in the South. I don't even know how to describe him. He's just tough. Yeah. He is just so difficult to guard. He's so difficult to box out. He's the hardest worker on the court. And, I don't even know how else to describe it. Like, literally, he is. Yeah, and he can hit the jump shot. And he's athletic as hell, too. He's got the whole package. And, they're kind of the perfect matchup for Duke, the way I look at those 2 teams. What is this bracket? Is that a potential matchup?
Yeah,
Clemson
semifinal.
Duke? Okay.
Yeah,
so that would be my Cinderella option in this conference, Clemson to knock out Duke.
That's what I have exactly. Topo, it's pretty weird. Most of the teams that you have circled, I also have circled, and we did not plan this before.
We did not at all. Yeah.
Clemson is my team to go to the championship. I have UNC winning the whole thing.
Okay, wow.
I think Clemson's going to make a run. Pretty easy first-round matchup against either Miami or Boston College. Then they'd play Virginia, who has not looked solid all year.
And especially away from home. They're even worse.
Yeah, so I think Clemson could definitely go on a run here. It's set up for a semifinal matchup against Duke, which would be a revenge game for Clemson, who lost to Duke in Cameron this year by pretty upsetting fashion. It was a couple late calls in the final 10 seconds that allowed Duke to get that win in Cameron. So I think Clemson will come into that game with a little revenge to get, and then they would have made their way into the NCAA tournament by making it to the championship. I have UNC winning at plus 200. Clemson is the Cinderella there.
Agreed.
Anything else you want to touch up on before we get to the worst of the conferences?
Before Pac-12? No.
All right,
no, this is good. Yeah.
Let's round it out with what will be the last ever Pac-12 tournament. Yeah. Arizona is a big favorite. They have lower odds than any other team or any other tournament that we've gone over. in depth. Arizona -160. The next two are Colorado and Washington State around +500. It's pretty much Arizona versus the rest. Pretty much Arizona and a bunch of teams that probably won't even make the tournament. So
Lay the juice. Don't give a shit.
don't
These
give a
Wildcats
shit.
are so good. I think this Arizona team is they fixed the flaws from last year.
Yeah.
Not only by getting Caleb Love, but in the improvements that the individuals have made besides Caleb Love. Keeping Caleb Love with Boswell is arguably the best guard duo in the country for having two seniors and the success that those two have had in their careers. And they keep Omar Ballo, who's going to guard, the likes of Klingon, Edey, if you get to those games.
Yeah. Pick them to win the Pac-12. That's a clean sweep.
Lay the
so
juice.
let's go back through it real quick. Pac-12, we're juicing it with Arizona.
Double Arizona. Yep.
Yeah, double Arizona. ACC, I got UNC over Clemson.
I'm going to go UNC as well
Okay.
for ACC.
But we didn't talk about this, but potential for a UNC-Duke rematch. I think that's what everyone is predicting with the 1 versus 2 and not much other teams in the ACC.
But we're sneaky on Clemson.
Yeah, sneaky on Clemson to spoil that. Big East, I'm going Creighton. You're going Creighton too, geez. So
I'm going Creighton too. I think I love UConn. There's nothing really wrong with their game, but I think that a loss is coming before March. So
yeah,
just
and
in that.
Dan,
I
I don't think Dan Hurley really gives a shit about the Big East tournament as much as he does say March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
They've experienced bigger and better things. I think that his eyes are
on the prize,
on the big prize,
mm-hmm.
and they have as good of a shot as any to win that big prize next week.
Absolutely.
We've agreed on all three so far. Big Ten, do we agree on this one? I got Purdue.
I got Illinois.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Thank goodness.
I got Illinois,
Thank
Big
goodness.
Ten. I think Purdue will get to the Sweet 16, but I don't think they're going to have a great postseason once again.
Interesting. I think they do have some 3-point shooters this year, which
They
is
do.
big.
They did good in the portal.
Yeah. All right, our first time disagreeing. We got 2 more conferences left. SEC.
I said it on our January NFL playoffs podcast that Tennessee was going to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, you did.
I'm a volunteer, man.
I've had people tell me Tennessee's making the Final Four all year long. I was in Knoxville for the Georgia-Tennessee game.
Yeah, wait for basketball.
We're going to the Final Four, and they might not be wrong. Dalton Connect, man, he's special to watch.
Finally healthy. They're finally healthy.
And then we could be totally wrong. Kentucky could win this thing by 30
Auburn
points.
could win. Bama could.
Yeah.
Florida, Carolina.
Yeah.
But I will feel confident in rooting for Tennessee.
Okay. Tennessee over Florida. We agreed on that one.
Tennessee over Florida.
Next week when we meet for our podcast, if we'll say this. If Florida,
Clemson,
and or Clemson make it to the championship, we're going to be feeling good.
Oh, yeah.
About whatever we have coming next. Final one, Big 12, the best conference. So tough, man. So tough. I got I got Houston.
I got Iowa State.
All right, fair.
I got Iowa State, and keep an eye on BYU.
There you go. A lot of basketball to be played in the next week, and it will all determine the bracket on Selection Sunday. We're going to be breaking that all down early next week with a podcast on Spotify and YouTube, so make sure to go check it out. Hit that like, subscribe button wherever you're watching. We appreciate it, guys. We are going to be hammering college basketball throughout the month of March. A lock every single day. You don't want to miss Topo's fix. 10-3 in the month of March, and we're going to keep that ball rolling. More to come. We'll see y'all next week.